Welcome to East Coast DNA. I'm your host, Darcy Walsh, and today's guest, we have John Mullane, who we've mentioned several times in other episodes. So, John, you're aware of that. That's one of the reasons we have you on today.
Yeah, I did. That's what got me on your radar is work telling me to check out the episode. Yeah, it's great. I didn't know you guys mentioned me. That's great.
Yeah, so you're probably, I don't know if you, I was going to say most well known from, but I don't know if that's true. You would be known to some people from being in flight safety.
Yeah, I think that's dwindling with
Yeah,
with the years. I always say this thing like my joke is that I have a quota. I get recognized twice a year.
yeah.
It was 5 times about 3 or 4 years ago. Now it's twice a year, and I met my quota already this year. So I'm quite
Okay.
stoked on that. Maybe I'll get a third one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I know that your musical journey would have began before your time with that band, but
Mhm.
the reason that you've been brought up more often on our episodes is from your work as a producer as well. So you go by the name Future Dad for a lot of that. I mean, it's
Yeah, yeah.
interchangeable. You hear John Mullane, Future Dad, like in the same sentence
Yeah,
quite
I don't know
often.
if I did the branding quite right because I wasn't sure people would just keep using it for me. I just kind of thought, well, this is a cool name for a business, but it kind of ends up. I never intended to be like an artist, like producer who's like, okay, you're future dad. And that being said, I guess I could do that, but yeah, it sort of just was a business name that kind of became.
Sure.
I become known as future dad without my name associated. Like I noticed a few times listed that way, but I mean, I don't know what I'm doing business wise, so I just kind of would go with just making music. So yeah.
So is that something that you started during your time with in-flight safety?
Mhm. Yeah, since I started in flight safety with my friends in Sackville, I was the producer. So even from 2003 and 2 and before that I was home recording, I was that guy like trying to get mics, going to the music store and asking them what do I need to get for this? Like Long and McQuaid, and before that it was Music Stop. They helped me out so much, like just trying to figure out what I'm doing. Like I started out with nothing, right? So
Mhm.
a lot of the gear I have over here is from when I was still a computer programmer before in-flight safety because I had income.
Mhm.
So a lot of the gear I have, like those guitars, I bought them before I was like in the band full time. So thank God I had some like studio monitors, some basic Behringer ones, and they work great. And I got some microphones, and yeah. So all this to say that like I kind of got into producing pretty early with the band because I just needed a way to get the songs recorded. We didn't have any money for that,
Mhm.
and I love it. And I've always been interested. Like I started on a 4 track when I was 16, so um, did some very bad recordings I will not share. If they were cooler, I'd share them with you guys. But they're not. So yeah, I've always been producing, and then I took on some other artists even throughout in-flight safety. Like I took on some artists in the downtimes between tours and stuff, and produced a few songs, co-write, arranged. I did a lot of arranging for people, stuff like that. But then, you know, as things progress with life, I saw this is always where I was headed. It just took a little longer. I mean, the band kind of was a bit of not what the word is, but like kind of it took a different turn for me. I didn't
Mhm.
expect to go that direction, like playing live and entertaining for so long, because I'm more of a behind the scenes person. But it went a lot further than I kind of thought it would, or longer. Maybe further is not the right further. Sometimes
Yeah.
felt longer, other times. Don't want to speak for that. Who knows? Where we fit in, but it was yeah, quite a almost not a distraction, but like a detour to get
Sure. Because I
where I knew I
know,
was headed here. Yeah.
yeah, if you started off with your interest in the recording and like you said, like at the age of 16, you were
Yeah.
messing around with that stuff already. So I think in-flight safety, when the band was putting new material out and popular and hitting the road,
Mhm.
I was definitely aware of the band, but that's a
Oh,
period in my life where I wasn't really going to a lot of shows. Like I had two
right.
small children, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you can relate.
I can relate right
So,
now.
yeah, exactly. So, and similar to yourself, like I have a IT career
Okay.
that pays for everything that I do. The
Right.
rest of the stuff is only possible because I work full
Yep.
time in an IT career, right? So I definitely I can see all the relationship there.
Lots of similarities between you and I there, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
So was the aspect of not just the time that it takes to be in a band, because you still get to kind of scratch that itch of being able to produce the band's own material,
Mhm.
but is it the live element and like a tour component, or even just everybody in the East Coast can do 2 or 3 shows in 2 or 3 days if they don't mind sitting in the car for 4
Yeah.
to 6 hours every time they do a gig. But is that more of what the strain was, that it was taking you away from where your interests really were and required time and other things that were not a bad thing, but as less interest?
It's so complicated. We could do
Yeah.
I could do a book on this,
Yeah.
on being in a band, and all my friends and artists are annoyed by how much philosophy I have about being in a band, and um, it's like a marriage, and ours was, with some different people coming in near the end, maybe 14, 15 years of doing it. I mean, that's a long
Mhm.
time for a band, and most bands, it's hard to get past 3 or 4 years, because that's where you hit that point of like, what does this all mean and where is it going? And
Mhm.
with that sort of specter of failure or success, you don't know. Like, it's very hard to keep going in a band. Of course, we were blessed with a lot of success from that generation of bands. A lot of our, I call it class of 2003 to 7, that sort of kicking off in Halifax. We were blessed with a lot more support from
Mhm.
alt weeklies and journalists like yourself. There's so many more, and so many more, like, people would come into Halifax and like watch shows and be like, from Toronto, like, we're an agent and we want to work with you guys. Like, okay, great. But that, you don't, that's over, as we know. Like, you could showcase once and then maybe get an offer to someone to help you, or manager. So we benefited from all that. So we kind of just got into it. I think we had some songs. I think that's what
Mhm.
in-flight safety was. We were like a song camp, before there were song camps, and we wrote and wrote and wrote. So for me, my interest was making songs.
Mhm.
So whether that was satisfied, this is the first time I've said this too, which is exciting for me, because I've repeated myself a lot. I've got a new thought. It's like, whether that was satisfied by the band putting out songs or me producing songs, it almost didn't matter to me. But the band was
Sure.
satisfying that itch. So I create a song, it goes out in the world. I'm stoked. I want you to hear it. I think it's good. I think it'll move you, or I think it'll make you feel something. So in-flight safety satisfied that for such a long time, longer than I ever thought. And I think the strength of our songs kept us going, because we didn't have much of a show. It was, here we are playing, we just played the songs loud. And
Mhm.
then we developed a bit of a show. I heard people in the later part of our career say, oh, you guys have put on such a good show. And I was like, okay, that's really cool, because we really don't have those chops. We kind of learn them. How do we entertain? I'm not much of an entertainer. You have to learn to become a bit, maybe you have to be entertaining in the mic, or funny. You can't just be like serious. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
And unless you're Sigur Rós or Interpol, then you can just play the songs and walk off stage. So we had to be a little bit more of that. And that wasn't my natural state. So that started weighing on things a bit. Like, well, do I want to be entertaining people all the time? It's really hard for me to
Mhm.
be like, and then the stress of that and the panic attacks that come with touring, and are very real when you're like, in the height of our career. It was a little bit crazy with lack of personnel to help. So 7 of us in a van, maybe one tour manager, and you'd play a show and have to fly out at 2, go to the airport at 2 a.m., get a flight at 6 somewhere else. And that really just was too much for me.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful, because it meant that we were being successful. So it was like a double-edged sword. Like, it was such a great time, but it really, oof, I didn't do well with that. I just sort of faked it till I made it, kind of thing.
And the future dad name then was, I'm assuming when you picked that name, you weren't a dad at the time?
I was a dad at the time.
Okay.
Um, it sort of encapsulates what some of the aesthetic that I am, I think, and what I do. And my friend Leah, she's a promoter. She works for Sonic Concerts. We're going out for drinks one night when Roman was born in 2015, so ages ago. We were just out maybe after that a bit, and or maybe it was before. Who knows? The idea might have come before, because why would I be out for drinks when I have an infant? That makes no
Mhm.
sense. I don't know. My brain scrambled. But she said something about, look at all these future dads, because there's a bunch of dudes behaving poorly. And I thought, that's a great title. I didn't listen to her. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, for sure. But this is a good title, so I like wrote it down, and that's where it came from. Just, I
Oh,
was like,
fine.
I like that. Just stuck. Sometimes when you're a writer, maybe you write music yourself. too, or?
I don't. I wish.
Yeah, well, if anyway, all of our
Yeah.
writer friends would know, like sometimes it's just a phrase or a melody, it just zings you and you just go, I got to get that down. So like one time, sometimes I hear two words or three words together on the news and I just know it's something. Um,
Hmm.
and I just write it down. So that one was one of those. So then later I'm like, this is the right title for my business and for me, because I have a bit of a dad quality. And I've always been a band dad, you know, cracking the whip and trying to get people to like get up out of bed and like get on the road and all that stuff. And been that annoying guy trying to, you know, push things forward. So that's where that all came from. And then and I like also like, for me, future is like, I like modern music. I'm not stuck in
Hmm.
Smashing Pumpkins, Radiohead is where I came from, but I'm not stuck in that. I like moving on. So
Yeah, I am similar in that way too. Like, definitely highly influenced by 90s music that was new when I was a teenager, and music of like the late 60s and through the 70s that like my parents would have been
sure.
listening to as I was growing up. But
Hmm.
I just was asked who my favorite East Coast artists were by somebody that I was interviewing, and
Yeah.
like we were talking afterwards. And I realized in my big rambling rant of a response where I wouldn't really specify, but I kept rhyming off people. Everyone I'm rhyming off is like bands I've been following the last 2 or 3 years,
Hmm.
which makes sense from the podcast, but I've been a music fan my whole life. There's a million other bands sitting right here that I'm
Yeah.
definitely a huge fan of. It's just there's so many new things coming out. It's hard to just stay in one era and say, well, like this is music. Like,
I totally agree.
yeah, it's always out there.
I yeah. I'm just it's funny because time is a revelator. It's like it's you know, you get your revelations from time passing. And I thought, you know, when I was younger, I'm like, yeah, Smashing Pumpkins, Radiohead. I'm just gonna live and die on this. Sigur Rós, you know, whatever. The bands in the late '90s, early 2000s that became the template for
Hmm.
my aesthetic, I guess, to a degree. And then some of the more dancey bands, like I just became obsessed with like M83 and stuff like that, and the big ambient and electronic meets melody and all that stuff. And then as time goes on, you're like, no, I don't have a favorite band. I just
Hmm.
don't. I have songs.
Yeah.
I am beholden to songs. And I mean that, I know that sounds trite because of what I do, but it really is true. Like I don't care about the bands. Like if a band makes that weird, like when Wilco did that weird, okay, we're now out there. Like I love Yankee Hotel because at the time that worked for me. It was a little out there, but cool. And then they went on and did something. I'm like, I don't know. I'm good. When
Yeah.
Radiohead did what's it called? The Pools of, don't even know the name of it. The Radiohead, one of the later
Oh, just from
records.
years. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like something Moon or Pool. And I didn't even, I was like, I tried to listen to it. Like, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah, and that's another that's a good example because that's a bit I can't answer that question for you because I have a bunch of Radiohead over
Yep.
here and I'll never shut it off. I definitely go
Sure.
look for it from time to time, but yeah, to name their whole catalog,
Yeah.
it's I love some of their songs. I love some of their albums.
Hmm.
Definitely don't know the whole catalog. I'd run
That's
out and
just
see them if they were coming somewhere on the East Coast, absolutely. But
and that's just it for me. And it's always been that way. And so I've just been beholden to like a song. Now, songs have never left my life. There's certain songs I just hang on to, but they're from every era, like whether it's a 50s
mhm.
song or a song from 2022. Like it's just like a bunch of songs on the board. And I realized that because I originally I was sort of like, you know, protective of the bands that I like, but sometimes bands make weird records that or records that you don't resonate with. Like weird is personal, right? So but like it just odd stuff, you're like, I don't get this. So I don't feel beholden to artists, or I don't feel a deference to bands,
Mhm.
but I feel a deference to songs. So if
It's
you like, whether it's Lee, if I see Liam Corcoran from 2 Hours Traffic, I'm like, Heroes of the Sidewalk, holy shit, man. Like I've loved that song since I've heard it, and it doesn't matter that I know Liam. It's like I'm more deferential to that than if like Billy Corgan came up to me and be like, I don't know, man, like we had our time together. I wouldn't feel that deference
mhm.
to someone. It's to the music. I would feel deference to his songs, obviously. And I do still watch some interviews with him, and I'm a fan of the stuff he's made over the years. But like, it's definitely, I can see where I come from. Like, you know, I used to freak out at people that are like my friends. Like, how did you write that song? Where did that come from? And you know, like And I missed that because that was more, I think the one thing I missed from the scene from 2006, 7, 8, 9 to maybe almost 2011, 2012 is we were all song obsessed. Do you
Hmm.
remember that? It's like, what
Yeah.
song? Oh, did you hear the song Winter Sleep played live? It's a new one. Did you hear the Jen Grant song? And it was like, I missed that. Like it's a little bit more different now. Things are flowing a little more like into like what people's aesthetic is and the kind of music they make, and it's consistent. And no one gets any
Hmm.
as much focus on one song as we used to because there was singles back then and people would pay attention. So when we wrote model homes and played it live a few times just to kind of test it out, you could tell like people like, what the hell was that song? And it's like, okay, there's something here. And we used to do that for each other. And I miss that. And I know people still do that. I mean, I don't want to sound like again,
Hmm.
guy, but I miss that was sort of the scene was a little bit more driven by songs when I started. So that satisfied scratched quite a niche for me. And when it got away from that and it was just like, here's a band and they do a bunch of stuff and they're going to put another record next year and the next year and the next year, it's just, it wouldn't work for me. I couldn't do a record every year or every 2 years. It takes me 3 years to get some songs I really think are worth hearing.
The pace nowadays for like the singles, you can crank them out any speed you want nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
but the pacing nowadays that you do have to keep going, it seems, because
Yeah.
if you're not constantly putting material out, like a band like Tool that has like 5 years between albums, and then they're like, oh, we're gonna go over a decade now. Like, I don't even know how that would be relevant to some bands, especially in the East Coast scene. I mean, not
Mm-hmm.
to be hard on the scene, but we all know it's a reality. Like, if you put
Mm-hmm.
out a really good album in 2023 and then you don't do anything for the next 4 or 5 years,
Yep.
you're starting from scratch.
Pretty much it would be the
Yeah.
same for In Flight if we wanted to, excuse me, put out new music. And just the grind of that
Hmm.
is hard for me on my brain, but where I can help other people do that, it really works well because I can work on it. There you go. Then I don't have to be part of the promotion of it as much.
Yes.
I like social media and I like talking about making music and promoting the work that I work on, but I couldn't do the 24/7. My email, I just even before there was iPhone, it's just I was always on email. Like
Hmm.
to do it to when you're in a band, that's all, and now group message or group
Yeah.
chat, group text, I'm sure. But like it was just too much for my brain. I'm very distracted. I need to be like focused on something and then I'm done.
Hmm.
I get distracted because I like to do one thing at a time.
Yeah, it's hard to finish any one thing if you're constantly checking
Yeah.
messages or
Yeah. And it
likes or whatever. Yeah.
and it weighs on your relationships too, like with your
Mhm.
personal relationships. Like I've constantly had to be organizing things on that phone or on my computer. And then my email just once I started doing this full time, my emails just went down to like day to day, barely. And I'm like, this is kind of interesting. And it made me feel better. It made me feel less
Yeah.
stressed. And then I just sort of focused on a song. We get our notes back and forth, and we're really into that song, and then we ship it to the mastering, and then we repeat. Um, so even that song at a time really works well because people want singles now anyway. I don't
Hmm.
think I would be too interested in doing a 10-song record with someone unless I knew them really well because it would be a lot. How could I do 10 songs? It would take on all that. The band would take on all that stress. I would take on all that stress and the financial stress of it is a lot. So I do love one song at a time kind of culture. I always have, I guess.
Yeah, I'm glad that you kind of went that way with the conversation too, because that was something that I was curious about with the bands that I'm aware of you through
Mhm,
outside of your own playing. Like my early interviews, I would have interviewed Kids Losing Sleep
mhm,
and Good Dear Good fairly early on with me doing interviews in the first place. So
mhm,
those bands have a special place for me. I always like to follow what they have going on. But you've worked with both of them.
mhm.
But Pillow Fight would be another one that it was
Yep.
very early on that I had met them, so I always kind of follow what they have going on too. Uh, I've got to know Jade Bennett quite well over
Yep.
the last year or so too. So I mean, those are all great people, great performers, and they all have completely different sounds, but you've worked with all of those people from the producer side?
Yep. Yep. I have, and a little bit more the producer influence is there, I'd say, on Kids Losing Sleep a little bit, but like
Mhm,
largely Owen and Bryson were doing that when
mhm.
Bryson was in the band. But I'm pretty annoying. If I don't like something, like, guys, can we just look at this before you finish this? Can we just fix this drum pattern? And this is my idea. Do you like it? Just pitching ideas, enough ideas at them that some of them would stick. And um, Pillow Fight is Aaron producing it, but I'm in there too. Aaron and I work together. We're super tight. We talk every day. Um, so yeah, I'm in there too, just sort of like massaging things or rearranging, like even in the mix, I'm like, oh, let's chop that out. And let's like, if you listen to Playing the Fool, there's like the down moment before the end. And I was like, let's just filter this and make it small and make it big again, like just things like that. And Aaron's totally open to stuff like that. And, um, so I do add a lot of stuff that way. And Good You're Good I've produced, and Tim's doing it himself lately, and I'm doing the mixing so that we can keep our costs down a bit and
Mhm.
keep it light. I love that, so it's great. Yeah, and then
And
we met Jade, and Jade's song was from Laura Ray. So Laura just was kind of hit a dead end with this track. She just brought me in to help with that one, and then I had another vision for it and just took it from. It was a little more like folky,
mhm.
pop, like just I'm not sure, like songwritery. And then I was like,
Yeah,
let's do 99, let's do 2001, let's do Backstreet Boys, TLC. And I kind of found some vibes there, like, because I'm a huge fan of that music. You wouldn't, maybe people wouldn't know, but like, so we kind of hit that song in a different way. Like, I just took it a different direction. Even though a lot of Jade's music is not like that now, it's
yeah,
more folky indie, and there are some plans. She's got some plans to make those songs, and like more of the Phoebe Bridgers style. But that one was like, let's just do this as a one-off. It's got this. She coined, like, it's like Y2K vibes, and it totally
yeah,
does. Yeah.
yeah. Big fan of Laura Ray as well. She's
Oh yeah.
also been on the
So good. So
podcast.
talented. So good. So her harmony singing, man, when she does those videos.
Mhm. And we haven't had them on, but also saw, like, I mean, you have an extensive list of people, but Sunday Girl
Yep.
and Logan Edward McKay.
Yeah, Logan is like my pal. Like, we're really tight. We're good friends. So Logan, I try to have one or two projects a year where, like, I'm like in it all the time, and Logan's that one. So we write together, and it's the closest thing I have to being like that feeling of being in in-flight safety. Even though
Mhm.
I keep that separation of church and state. It's his music. I know I do write with him, and we do, but like, I do love that feeling of like we do it together. It's like just bounce ideas until we're done. So the song just starts like a demo, and then it ends up being this sort of big monster at the end. And Sunday Girl have so many great songs, and I forced my way into that one a bit. With Laura's always been open to working together, and she brought me on for. But there's this one song they were playing live, like I just told you about. This is my person. I'm like, what is that song? We need to
Yeah.
work on it, and that's the song that we worked on together. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Every
So
one of those people, like every one of those acts, from at least from my perspective, like they're
yeah.
all. I mean, obviously every band is musicians, but these are all people that are, when I see them out socially, the
Yep.
entire group is musicians from HRM.
Yep.
If I see them at a festival and they're sitting with 5 or 6 people, it's all other musicians
Yep.
from their music scene.
Yeah. And I
So,
feel so lucky to be adjacent to that group of people. Like,
mhm,
it's like the new crop of bands that are just, I'm just so stoked on them. And don't let anyone ever tell you that, it was better in the, like, the bands were better in the, no, in the old days. Or it's just so, like, I see a lot of that rhetoric from people from a different generation, but like, you don't get it. It's like there's just not as much promotion.
mhm,
Like, the Sunday, I was just clicking on a folder because I got to remember the name of the song. It's such a good, the 4 months by Sunday Girls. Like,
okay,
it's a straight up jam. It's somewhere between pop, indie, and like new country. And it's like one of my favorite songs I've worked on, but like, I just don't think people have heard it.
mhm,
I don't think there's enough promotion for bands. But yeah, 4 months by Sunday Girl. Check it out. Spin it. Get some more streams.
awesome.
I don't get the algorithm some. Give the algorithm some food. Feed it.
Yes,
But yeah,
yes,
so
exactly.
yeah. So I forced my way to that one. I was like, I need to work on that song specifically.
And so are you able to share with us any future stuff? Like, is there
Of
anything that
course.
you're working
Yeah.
on now that maybe isn't publicly known? Because there isn't. a ton of promotion for a lot of that type of stuff.
No,
Is there stuff
I
you
could
can
share
give us?
anything. I mean, I don't have
Yeah.
any confident. I'm pretty like I always like ask my artists like, hey, can I share this on social media? Like even when I'm
Mhm.
working on a mix, because like it shouldn't be probably online yet, but I just like to share things. I mean, well, come on, life is short. Logan and I have a new song coming out, which is I think my favorite one we've done, which is saying a lot because we've got two other ones I really love.
Awesome.
And it's somewhere between British folk, Sam Fender. There's the odd remnant from the in-flight safety guitar tone, and then
Mhm.
it's like War on Drugs is sort of there, like it's like always
Oh,
War on Drugs. It's got these melodies, and it's like it's an insistent song, and we made this song, yeah, and I'm really stoked on because it was like a lot of times people have a tendency to play a song and just like kind of stop, start, and here's the chorus. Let's go big. Let's go to the ride cymbal in the chorus. And I was like, with this one, and Zach from Kids Losing Sleep was the drummer. So with that one, we really, me, Logan, and Zach worked together on getting the sort of basis for the song. And I'm like, let's just go. Let's
mhm.
go. No stopping. Because it's like, I love that. It's hard to do that. You know, do you hear how many songs you hear that just go and don't stop? It's because like you use sometimes you use fill-ins into a chorus, out of a chorus as a crutch, or the bridge is a build, it's a build. My whole career is based on sections, songs having sections, like in-flight safety songs have all their moments and their outros. But this one I was like, let's just go. So that was pretty cool. And I hope that it translates. It's just kind of a pop rock thing and just goes.
Awesome. And where would you send people to keep track of you online? Just through you have your own website?
Yeah, I have a website, futuredadmusic.com. But I just social media, like,
Mhm.
Instagram and mainly Instagram, I guess, for Future Dad stuff. I don't update the Facebook page that much. It's, as we all know, those of us who have them, it's a pain in the ass. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The old
And for
the business Facebook page.
and if there's any of our listeners that are also Music Nova Scotia members, there's currently voting going on for the
Mm,
awards for 2023. I saw your name listed there as one of the
yeah,
nominations as well.
please vote for me. I need I need your help.
Yeah, so
We
congratulations
need
on
all
the
the promotion we
nomination.
can get in this industry. Vote
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me. Vote
yeah,
for me.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I imagine you'll be present at the event
Yes, I
either
will.
way. So
And
another name
um
for people to keep an eye out on.
I will, and if you allow me, I'm doing this thing which I've done over the years. Is like I'm a I'm a not a I like coffee. I'm not coffee snobbery. I just like
Mhm,
coffee. I don't believe in the snobbery part too much. I like it to taste good. But I used to bring my whole coffee setup. You can see some of it back here.
mhm.
I used to bring it to like Yarmouth back in 2014 because there was no coffee in Yarmouth, just Tim's. So if you wanted something a little different, wasn't there. So I started bringing it with me, bringing beans from Java Blend and just grinding them up. And then people started hearing that I had this stuff, and they'd come to the room, and I'm like, this is really cool. Like people are coming to me, and I'd be playing music from like Nova Scotia artists throughout the weekend. So I've turned that into like this kind of coffee pop-up shop that I do every year at ECMA and at Music Nova Scotia. And this year it's the same. I'm doing the same thing, but I'm extending it a bit where like now I'm booking people in online to
Mhm.
come to the room. I'll have it set up as a coffee shop, and I'll have like my Bluetooth speaker with like an aux in, and I'm booking meetings with people to meet them, and for them, if they want to talk to me about like music careers or production ideas or play demos and stuff like that. So I'm doing that this year, and I did that at ECMA as well. I'm sort of like formalizing this sort of coffee session thing at and it'll be in Yarmouth again this year. So I just wanted to mention that because it'll be, people can book that soon.
You
It'll be
actually have
a
a
lot.
link for that on your link tree?
I will have it on my link tree
Okay,
live shortly, but it's my Future Dead link tree.
awesome.
I'll give it to you guys, and it should be live soon. I just have to figure out when I'm going to be available, like which
Sure.
depending on family life, probably Thursday to Saturday, but yeah, and you could book an appointment with me. And we did that at ECMA, and it was really great. People came out here because it was
Mhm.
in Halifax, and that was neat. But I'll be mobile out there with some
Well,
coffee.
sounds fun.
Yeah, and you can book like anyone. Just come talk,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about music, or if hopefully people have songs they could play me, or they have
Mhm.
questions about production and mixing and stuff like that, or if they just want to talk about music careers. Obviously, I have my career with in-flight safety as kind of a template there to offer
Well, that's an amazing offer for a lot of people out there. I'm sure it's one of those things as far as promotion. I'm sure if people are aware that that's an option that's available, that you're going to get booked up
Yeah,
like
it's
pretty
like
damn quick.
I don't do it. I now realize it's a good promotion for my business. Like, and
Hmm.
I got a couple new clients from doing this at ECMA. So I work with Matt Elliott, who's in Daniel McFadden's band, or
Yeah.
McFadden. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And we work together now because we did those coffee sessions, and I work with, and I
Oh,
met a
fun.
lot of cool people during ECMAs who just randomly booked a thing. And Maya from oh my God,
Skunk Motel.
Skunk Motel. Jeez, my brain
Yes.
is fried after daycare drop-offs. Maya from Skunk Motel dropped off, or came by, and we chatted, and that was a great introduction to meeting her, and like just like so many cool people. And I don't know, I'm weird. I like meeting random people, and it's something I've just sort of, this grew out of me just doing it naturally, and I'm also a bit lazy with the conference stuff. So people were coming to me. I could just sort of hang tight and drink coffee, and I could meet people without having to go
I
all
think
over
I
the
really
city.
wanted to
Yeah.
write about artists, like from magazines and stuff, like from
Yep.
years ago. I think that's what I really wanted to do at one point in my
Yep.
life, but I just never ever did it. But now at this point in my life, like it's so much easier just for me to hit record and record the
It's great, and
conversation
then
than to
then
try
you're
to
done.
remember it and write it down and format it
There,
properly. So,
listen, there are some awesome things about modern times, some scary things, some good things, some really good things with the
oh yeah,
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 some
absolutely.
conveniences, I guess is the word. But yeah, man, that's awesome. I love what you do, and great
I
job. I mean, we
appreciate it.
need more people like you, and being in Pictou is great too, because you can kind of, from the feet up, you can get people from that area into it's a
Yeah.
lot of it's Halifax based, so that's even better. And it's like people can change the scene by just making, like, look at what CJ's done at
Oh
Gus's.
yeah.
Like, that
It's
is how you
just
do it. You
amazing.
just
Yeah.
make a scene. Like, there's no scene, well then you make it, and
Yeah.
now there's a huge scene. And Kyle from the Marquee, and these people are just doing it. Like, there's no magic formula, just do it, and like you're doing it. It's killer. Yeah.
Have you been down to the New Glasgow area much yourself? Like I
Yeah,
know
well, we
you've
played
played
some
here
shows
before.
there, yeah, at the Jubilee, and then in like the theater, we've done some shows inside.
Hmm.
Where else have we played? Mainly the Jubilee and the theater there. When Carlton was alive. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You should take a drive down sometime if you can fit it into your schedule or if you can work a stop in when you're going through somewhere. But Shoebox, I think you would really like the Shoebox Studios in Cantina.
oh, I know the
Yeah.
guys. Yeah, yeah, I know
It's a
Andre
similar
and the
thing.
lads.
There's a few venues down here. The East Avenue's having live shows and the
Mhm.
Spot has live shows. Like it's similar. There's always been musicians here that have been very, very active, but I have seen the last couple of years that there's people putting effort into making a scene here.
Love it.
It's not just posturing. Like there's people that are putting on shows and opening venues and focusing on
Yeah,
actually laying the groundwork of like there's material and content and there's something there more so than just the marketing piece of it. So
yeah,
it's an exciting time, and I think that echoes everywhere from the people I've been interviewing, and now that I'm expanding a little bit more so around the East Coast and not just specifically Pictou County or Halifax, and
yeah,
I'm starting to get other provinces. There's a bunch of these little scenes popping up everywhere because everyone just has this renewed energy the last couple of years to really put the effort in. So I'm sure you're like myself because we would have been going through a lot of similar tastes in the
yeah.
different eras that
Hmm.
right now it really seems like a real promising time for the whole industry as long as we can find a way to keep paying everybody to keep
Yeah.
producing content.
The
That's
money
the
is tight with the economy. Like, I know that sounds so cheesy, like this economy, but like, I mean, it's incredible what people are charging for
oh
food,
yeah.
lodging. It's wrong, but how to work within that. And it's what's incredible is the art scene is just growing. Uh,
Hmm.
I think maybe 2020 was obviously a slowdown, but I think it was poised then just to kind of explode again. Like, there's
Yeah.
been ebbs and flows. There's venues have disappeared over the years, but now we're more focused on, like, I like the idea of what we do now. It's like fewer venues, but we focus on the more quality. And
Hmm.
Kyle's put in place that the Marquee was never there before in the Seahorse. Like, a lot of bands have not known what promoting was before that. Like, we
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
like, but when we started, like, you could charge $5 ticket, maybe a $10 ticket. If people knew the four bands, that was the promotion done. There
Yes.
was no like slogging it out on social. People just showed up. You could sell 600 tickets to a
Mhm.
show at the Marquee when Greg Clark was booking that. But then things got weird, right? Now we need promoters who are like crafty and thoughtful,
Yeah.
building out bills that make a lot of sense that only promoters can understand. I've been pretty bad at it over the years. Every time I build my own bill, I'm not sure if it works the way as well as a promoter.
Mhm.
There's an art to that. And they're doing that, and they're they're assigning costs to things the way they should, which was something we never did before. We kind of just show up, sound guy
Yeah.
paid by the bar, and the drinks paid for this, and who was paying for posters, no one knew. And I like the way that it's more organized, and it's always been that way in other markets, and we're doing that now. That's wicked.
Yeah, no, I think that it's exactly that. As people are getting more educated on like the best practices on
Yep.
how to work in the industry, that we're
Mhm.
starting to see a lot of people that had a lot of talent all along are really starting to rise to the top. So
Yeah.
very, very exciting time for East Coast musicians, but just the industry as a whole, I suppose.
Totally, and I hope a new promoter comes along, like a smaller promoter who could
Hmm.
take a little bit of risk on certain things and build out like a series. Like I know that they do that like within the venues, but like someone outside of the venues who could become a
Yeah.
promoter is really lacking in this town, for like kind of the pop indie rock. You
Hmm.
know, there's lots for like other styles like heavy metal and electro and dance club stuff, or like DJ nights and stuff. But like we just need that person
Yeah,
to come
the
along.
niche markets needed it to be able to
Yeah, to
survive.
survive, but we like for like
But
pop
everyone else
rock.
needs it.
Yeah.
Yeah, pop
We
needs
need
it
just
in
someone to
order to
come along and
thrive.
like work with Kyle and work with the venues and
Mhm.
CJ and like build out like a promotion company and then start bringing in bands and having other like that's not just Sonic. That's it could bring in like bands from out of town and have local bands open for them. Would be great. I'd love to see more of that, but it does take a lot of takes money and risk to do that. But I hope
Yeah.
that some smaller promoter comes along to kind of fill that void.
Well, here's
Because
hoping, and if not, maybe one of these coffee chats will turn into something. Who knows?
I'll pitch the idea if you, but the venues are doing such a good job on their own, but it's a
Yeah.
lot for them, and I imagine that's busy. Yeah.
It looks like we're gonna get cut off on our time here fairly
Okay, man.
shortly. I'd love to maybe revisit this in the future and get an update on what's going on in your end. So
Sure.
definitely keep in touch. And
Yeah,
I thank
sounds
you for
great.
your time for today. And everyone out there listening, go out and check out every single one of those bands that we were just talking about, and then find out who they were playing with. Check out those bands too.
Yes, do it. Go listen to local music. It's out there. Need some more streams.
Exactly. Thank you very much, and see everyone soon.